Then Abigail hurried and took 200 knives, 2 skins of wine, 5 sheep ready dressed, 5 measures of parched grain, 100 clusters of raisins, and 200 cakes of figs. She loaded them on the donkeys and said to her young men, "Go on ahead of me, I am coming after you." But she did not tell her husband Nabal as she rode on the donkey and came down under cover of the mountain. David and his men came down toward her, and she met them. Good morning. Let me introduce myself. My name is Abigail. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story today. I married Nabal. Let me start by saying it was not my best decision ever, but he was rich, he had land, animals. I knew he would be able to provide for his family. Now, let me tell you about Nabal. Let's just say an ugly ogre. That might help you understand who he was. Mean, surly disposition, insulted other men. Stupid and loathsome, and his name meant fool, okay? Remember that, very important. I know how to work around him because I'm clever, and I often had to clean up after his messes, so I had a lot of practice, which will definitely come in handy later. I'd like to say that I changed him into a loving Shrek with a heart of gold, as lots of people would love to change their spouses or significant others. That did not happen. One day I learned that 400 armed men were headed to our home. Can you imagine looking out the window and seeing 400 swordsmen coming towards you and not knowing why? Yes, real frightening. All because my husband again was foolish. Here is what happened. David, who was the biggest war hero of Israel, aka the future King David, him, he was going through a bit of a rough patch. King Saul loved him like a son, treated him as one of his own. But the king grew unstable, delusional, and treated David, or accused him of treachery, all right? So David fled to the wilderness for several years. There he was also waiting out for the king's foul mood to change. He somewhat became a Robin Hood. He had 400 merry men, but they did have a racket operation, which I will explain in a bit how that worked. So you could, oh yes, I do apologize. So it's shearing time, and my husband went up to shear his 3,000 sheep and his 1,000 goats. David heard about this and thought that this could be his next big business opportunity. So here's what he does. And everybody, all the herdsmen knew about this. I knew about this, but of course my husband did not. He sends his men to position themselves as a wall around the flock, shielding them from the thieves. Now, this is very kind of them, but they were never asked to do this. So after the shearing was complete, they often ask for payment, which is usually a demand for food, okay? That's what their racket operation is. Again, everybody knew about it except my husband. So the men come to my husband asking for payment. They throw out David's name. My husband says, "Who's David? Okay, go away, I'm not giving you any food." David is furious and gave orders to have his men grab swords, head to our home, and have him avenge his honor. And he wanted Nabal to have a battleground slaughter in his own backyard. Yep. One of my men came and told me all this, what my husband did, about what David's plan was. Again, I had lots of practice cleaning up my husband's messes, so I knew I had to take action to fix this. I had a plan and a speech all ready to go. I grabbed all the food that should have been given, loaded on the donkeys, and sent them ahead of me and followed. Being the clever girl that I am, I know I was a match for David when it came to to practical brilliance. I knew what was required when a man's ego and honor were injured and shift the focus away from the offender. And of course, de-escalate the tension. I knew to call forth generosity, gratitude, and empathy to help restore the honor. So my words made a big impression on David. He sent me home with a blessing and reassuring me that his 400 men would not come to our home. That night I did not tell my husband. He had been drinking a little too much, and when I told him, I really wanted him to hear it and appreciate it. So the next morning, I told him what I did. He was so shocked that he collapsed. His heart died within him. He became like a stone. David declared his death fitting for how Nabal had treated his men and immediately started to woo me. I was not upset by that. I soon became one of David's many wives and bore him a son. I would like to say that my story has a happy ending, but sadly, no. My son was one of many of David's sons, as I was also one of David's many wives. So I was kind of in a shadow. I will say there are several good things that happened for me. I am remembered for shaping David's moral character during his uncertain time in his life, and even regarded as a prophet for the way that I called David out and back to his anointed role. I'm also the only woman in the Bible to be described as both intelligent and beautiful, in that order. And my speech is the longest by any woman in the Old Testament. That's me. I did earn respect for using good judgment, whether heading into danger or sticking out with the many years of foolishness. I beat outlaws and ogres with my good sense alone. Lastly, because I thought this was cute and funny about me, it's quite a record for a biblical character who is often among the last to be noticed. But if you go alphabetically, I lead. Thank you.